If I said anything at all to you, I want to say each of you is precious. Each of you is incredibly important in the lives of young people.
One of the funniest stories that I remember about Earl was the year that I was a student council advisor, and I'd known him for a couple of years, but I was at a fly-in in Chicago, and he always does this impossible dream speech at the very end. And at the very end, he whips out his flag, and it comes full circle and it hits the chandelier, and there's glass shattering everywhere. And so it's one of the funniest stories that I will remember of Earl Reum.
In 1977, I went to my first Missouri Association of Student Council workshop, and I encountered this man by the name of Earl Reum. I had no idea who he was, what he was, but at the end of the week, I was absolutely hooked. And so from 1977 till today, I have been involved in student activities, I've been involved in student leadership, because one man influenced my life greater than anybody else. So, Earl, Dr. Reum, love you, always loved you, and you are the man who made me professionally what I am today.
You have each one saved a life. I got an email from a kid who told me that, and one of you told me that last night.
I met Earl Reum in 1988 at a CATA convention. And from that moment on, every single CATA convention, I would look for Earl Reum, because there is nobody in the room that could make you feel like Earl Reum, because he made you feel like the most important person in the room. And that was the magic of him. And so he will be tremendously missed.
Earl has been an inspiration. In Kansas, he's got a soft spot in our hearts. He has worked so long and hard for Kansas to develop our leaders. We're so thrilled to have Earl as a Kansan, an honorary Kansan, and we are thrilled to be part of his life as he was part of ours. My best memories of Earl were not this past September, but the September before. We did the 2-week tour of Kansas, and spent 2 weeks, about 4,000 miles, never leaving Kansas, seeing about 3,500 kids, and also the time on the windshield. Great story. My kids bought me an XM radio because I'm on the road a lot, and we never turned it on once. We spent a lot of time just talking and telling stories. Donald Duck is a great fan.
I love you, Earl. I love everything about you. Let's keep peace. I love you. Thank you.
Every year I've taken kids to the Kansas camp and the workshop in the summer. And every year the kids are just drawn to him like I can't even believe. Just like a moth to a light. I mean, it's just, and they come out of there and you never know how it's going to be, and then they say, wasn't he the absolute greatest? And I said, yes, he is.
It is not possible to put it together, but to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star.
One of my fondest memories of the man, Earl, was in 1976 when the Archdiocese of New Orleans wanted to have a giant non-denominational youth rally on faith for the bicentennial. And the Archbishop, I was on the committee, and the Archbishop said, I need a unique speaker. And I said, I have just the man. And he stood in front of 50,000 young people and gave the speech of his career. And we ended it by passing out 50,000 warm fuzzies. So that is indelible in my mind, what Earl charmed and inspired 50,000 young people during the bicentennial of our country. God bless you, Earl. You're my hero.
Other than my dad, Earl was the single most significant learning experience of my life.
If you know Earl, you know that you spent time hearing him go, ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, Linda and I have a real special thing because we spent 2 hours with him in a car going from our home in Anaheim to the desert, and he'd never been to the desert before, and all he could say was, ooh, 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 with the mountains and the pillar things going around and whatever. And then when we got there, he was our keynote speaker, did a great job, and that night we went into the jacuzzi, and Earl said, Alden, I've never been to the jacuzzi before. And I said, well, I'll get you a bathing suit. And he got a bathing suit on, and he came out at the Ocotillo Lodge and walked right out and stepped into the jacuzzi, not knowing there were stairs going into the jacuzzi. But thank God we all caught him. He did great, and he said, this water is really hot. Anyway, he is a gem. We love him and care about him, and what a special night this is for Earl Reum.
Early in my years at NASSP, I was at one of our early conferences. Earl was there, and he said, David, you're so serious. You need to smile a little bit more. And there's not a day that I don't walk into our building and I can see my reflection on the door. And right now, every time I see that, I say, gotta put the smile on. I'm not a great smiler, but it's the attitude. And I have Earl to thank for that, to be a little more positive, a little more upbeat, and smile a little bit more. So we appreciate that. I appreciate that. It's a good man.
Earl Reum has made a huge impact on my life and countless other students across the state of Kansas. I first met Earl in 1981 when I was attending the State Student Council workshop as a visiting advisor. A couple of years later I was on staff, and I've got to hear countless stories of his. One of my favorite is the sundial story. I'll never forget it, and it's been remarkable. This day we got to go to Cranmer Park and see the sundial that we've heard so many stories about throughout the years. Earl, we love you and we'll miss you greatly.
Earl, thanks for reminding me to listen to people. It's made a difference. Thanks for leaving a legacy.
One of the things I enjoyed about Earl was we had a discussion once about leadership. And his comment to me was, wasn't it interesting that this so-called leadership association wasn't providing any leadership to its members? And I always remember that, because there are lots of groups that say they're leadership associations, and they really don't provide leadership to their members, or even on your school campus. Are you really providing leadership? You're probably providing activities. And when he said that to me, a light bulb went off. And what he told me was, a lot of times when you are the one who is supposed to be a leader, it means sometimes you're going to suggest things people aren't going to want to hear or do, and you're going to take some slings and shots, and people are going to just badmouth you. But he said, sometimes you have to go first so others will understand where they can go. And so I know for me, I've always tried to provide leadership and not follow what other people are doing. And that comes from Earl, and most people don't realize he says or was as deep as that, because they always get hung up on his wonderful props. I just want you to know that he had a lot of depth and substance, and it rubbed off on at least one of his colleagues. So that's my favorite story about Earl.
I don't know your quest, but that's it. The quest is the leadership thing. It's your own vehicle in your own school, in your own design, and you go up the mountain to the highest point, and you see things and you stop along the way with all the activities you sponsor, and every once in a while somebody says to you, I don't know why you do that. I don't know why. And sometimes we don't even know how to print it out. And I kind of like this, because everybody knows what you're trying to do, and it doesn't quite, oh, I got it upside down, I think. No, it's backwards, okay. No, it's upside down. This is the story of my life. Everybody knows what you're trying to do, and it never comes off.
Hi, I'm Ann Postwaite, Minnesota Executive Director, and I had the opportunity of meeting Earl for the very first time at my first NASC conference in 1992 in Colorado. And remember seeing the man with the flaming wallet, with the belly button, with his beeping nose, with his backup beepers, and just going, this is a person I need to hang out with. And then was fortunate in 1994 to attend my first NAUD conference, where I got to see Earl really perform on stage and show us all about student activities and I was hooked. And it was one of those that whenever I went to NAUD, or the National Conference on Student Activities, and the NASC conference, to want to be able to hang out with Earl and learn new things, and to crack those plastic cups under our arms and adjust our neck or our nose, which I have passed on to my nephews, and they're very good at. As well as, you know, with a fork and with the best is yet to come, and making sure of those moments to learn. And one of those things to always be able to go out, and always, if you were traveling with Earl, no matter where you were, if it was checking into a hotel or in an elevator or in a restaurant, when he would open up his flaming wallet and people would move back in shock of the flames, but then go, how did he do that? How did it happen? And just those memories and moments he created for everyone, and them remembering the time when they had met Earl Reum and the things that they had passed on to him. And I know just the treasures that I have gleaned from him, and tidbits of knowledge, and the books and publications that I have, and then the awesome fortune of being awarded the Earl Reum Award this year in 2010. That to me is a cherished treasure, as I had met Earl when I was a new advisor to Student Council, and always knowing he had tidbits of wisdom, or when I saw him that he was focused on you and always had things to say to you, and you knew you were the most important at that time. So to Earl, I thank you for the years I've known you, the things you've given me, and that I will continue to share with others involved in student activities. Thank you so much.
My favorite story of Earl probably was coming back from a conference one night after the dance. There was a flooding rain, downpour, water running through the streets. We used trash bags over our heads because nobody had umbrellas, didn't expect it to rain. And Earl, of course, called them the human condoms. And as we were careful to walk around the puddles, Earl decides to start jumping in them like a little second-grade boy, splashing everybody. And I hope I can live through life with half as much energy before I'm 50 as he had after he was 50. And I'll just always remember to KYPU.
NAUD 1983, New Orleans. Wonderful conference. We had a great time. We were at Pat O'Brien's on Saturday night, and Earl was there, of course, performing in his usual way. And there were all these high school kids there after a prom or a dance or something. So George Meyer, who is no longer with us, sadly, from Pennsylvania, and I are watching Earl do his shtick. He's talking to this high school girl, going through his whole thing. She's totally fascinated with him, as we all are, and ultimately says, I don't know what, but her boyfriend is watching this, and he's not happy that this old guy is kind of putting, you know, moves, I guess, in his mind on his girlfriend. So ultimately he says something, you know, ridiculous, and the guy says, bull, and Earl just immediately says, well said, and moves right on to the next kid. It was a classic moment.
Loved Earl Reum from the beginning. He gave me ideas that I used with my students. But as I've thought about Earl the last few weeks and gathering with a lot of friends who have had similar circumstances with Earl, I really don't remember a conversation with Earl where I didn't know I had his full attention. He would talk to you and listen to nobody else, listen to what you had to say, have a comment about it, and move on. And you always knew you had a friend with Earl Reum. He's taught us all a great deal. Hopefully we'll be able to continue with Earl's ideas in the future. And it's an honor to be here.
You know, when I hear the name Earl Reum, there's a part of my heart that'll always remember meeting him as a high school kid, and then not having any idea what his legacy would mean in my life. But as a student council kid, I saw speakers, said I want to do that someday, and then I've made my life career a speaker. And pretty cool to watch my own children then have the opportunity to hear Earl and other speakers, and today to look at them as 25, 24, and 22-year-olds doing so well. And my daughter got an amazing compliment recently from one of her colleagues at Intuit, where she works. He said, Cheyenne, you have an amazing ability of emotional intelligence. He said, beyond anyone I've ever seen. And I think that brings me back full circle to what Earl was sharing with us. There was a lot of things to learn in life, math, science, English, leadership, but what he really gave us was this thing called emotional intelligence, this ability to be in touch in a strong and yet tender way with other people, to pick up the vibe, their sense of, he would do that for us. He'd see us after we got done speaking when we'd struggled or we'd done well, and he knew how to love us. He knew how to cheer us on. There was never feedback, never telling us, oh, you could be better at this or this or this. But it was just that look in our eyes to let us know that we were okay. And my daughter now, second generation removed, now she can do that for other people. And so when I think about the impact that trickled through me, through my wife Lori, to our 3 kids who are now doing great in the world, thank you, Earl, and thank you those that surrounded Earl with love and grace to make him even who he was.
I think there have been an awful lot of people thinking about Earl and Earl's impact and what Earl's contributions have meant to so many people. And I was thinking about all the different symbols that he used, the way that he used the perfect 10, and that was really kind of one of his trademarks. And the thought occurred to me that the perfect 10 wasn't something that Earl invented. It was a moment that happened at the 1976 Olympics when Nadia Comaneci scored a 10 for the first time, and then she scored a string of them. And I was thinking about one of Earl's really special things was how he would take a moment that he saw and then figure out a way to take that moment and recreate it for others in a way that it became its own sort of tradition and it took on its own sort of meaning, and it was just something that would stay with people for a long, long time.
Hi Earl, so I can remember sitting at MASC camp and listening to you speak on stage, and you were the very first person who ever made me believe that I had something to contribute to the world. So every day I wake up still trying to make you proud and making a difference for everybody else. I love you, Earl. Thank you.
You are brilliant and beautiful and magnificent and wondrous and fantastic and phenomenal. You're an activities director. Good luck to you. God bless you. Live the dream. And do something sensationally important. Thank you for the privilege of letting me speak with you.